This is Audible.
Brought to you by Penguin.
Chernobyl, History of a Tragedy by Serhii Plokhy. Read by Leighton Pugh. Prologue. Around 7 a.m. on April the 28th, 1986, Cliff Robinson, a 29-year-old chemist working at the Forsmark nuclear power plant, 2 hours' drive from Stockholm, went to brush his teeth after breakfast. In order to get from the washroom to the locker room, he had to pass through a radiation detector, just as he had done thousands of times before. This time was different, though. The alarm went on. It made no sense, thought Robinson, as he had never even entered the control area where he might have absorbed some radiation. He went through the detector a second time, and again it went on. Only on the third try did the alarm fall silent. Finally, an explanation. The damn thing had simply malfunctioned. Robinson's job at the plant was monitoring radiation levels. How ironic, he thought, that the detector had chosen him to show how vigilant the system was. Good thing it had come back to its senses. Robinson went on with his duties, all but forgetting the unexpected alarm. But when he returned to the area later that morning, he saw a line of workers who also could not pass the detector without setting it off. Instead of checking the alarm, Robinson took a shoe from one of those waiting near the detector and took it to the lab for examination. What he discovered sent shivers up his spine. "I saw a sight that I will never forget," he recalled. "The shoe was highly contaminated. I could see the spectrum rising very quickly." Robinson's first thought was that someone had detonated a nuclear bomb. The shoe emanated radioactive elements that they did not normally detect at the plant. He reported the findings to his boss, and from there they were passed on to the Swedish Radiation Safety Authority in Stockholm. The authorities in the capital thought the problem was probably in the power plant itself, and the Forsmark workers were promptly evacuated. Radioactive testing of the plant began, but turned up nothing, and after a few hours it was clear that the plant was not the cause of the contamination. The bomb hypothesis was ruled out as well. The radioactive elements did not fit a bomb profile. With radioactivity levels also high at other nuclear power stations, it was apparent that the radioactive particles were coming from abroad. The calculations and wind direction pointed southeast to one of the world's 2 nuclear superpowers, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Could something terrible have happened there? But the Soviets were silent. The Swedish Radiation Safety Authority contacted Soviet officials who denied that anything taking place on their territory might have caused nuclear contamination. But safety services in the Scandinavian countries continued to register abnormally high levels of radiation. In Sweden, the level of gamma radiation was 30 to 40% higher than normal. In Norway, it had doubled, and in Finland, it was 6 times the norm. 2 radioactive gases, xenon and krypton, byproducts of the nuclear fusion of uranium, were moving across Scandinavia, a region covering not only Finland, Sweden and Norway, but also Denmark. Tests indicated that the source of the radioactive pollution, wherever it might be, was continuing to emit dangerous substances. The Swedes repeatedly called 3 Soviet agencies in charge of nuclear power management and generation, but they denied knowledge of any accident or explosion. The Swedish Minister for the Environment, Birgitta Dahl, declared that the country responsible for the spread of radioactivity was violating international agreements by withholding vital information from the world community. There was no response. Swedish diplomats reached out to their former foreign minister, Hans Blix, now in Vienna, heading the International Atomic Energy Agency. The agency was also in the dark. It was not clear what to expect. Although radiation levels were high, they did not yet pose a direct threat to human life and vegetation. But what if the contamination continued or even increased? And what had happened there, behind the Iron Curtain along the Soviet border? Was it the start of a new world war or a nuclear accident of enormous proportions? One way or another, the world would be involved. It was involved already, but the Soviets remained silent.